Well, good morning. Welcome to the 24th Annual Capital Conference, virtual edition. My name is David Trussell. I'm the Director of STEM Activities at UIL. That includes our math and science programs, computer science, as well as our newest STEM activity, robotics, which we'll be talking about today. This session is about building a robotics program at your school, specifically in the first Tech Challenge, or FTC, which is part of our first division in UIL Robotics, presented by Brad Friesen from Denver City High School. Thank you, Brad, for being willing to share your time and your knowledge and expertise and experience with robotics in this new and exciting conference format we're working with this year. And thank you, everyone, for attending. And I will turn it over to Brad.
Thank you, David. I'm by no means an expert in robotics, and I will talk to you a little bit about that. I've been part of UIL since high school. I graduated high school in 1982 and even competed in slide rule. So some of y'all may know what that is. That was my favorite. I was mad when they put that away and went to calculator, so I wouldn't do calculator, but then I became a calculator coach. So I love that. Worked these years with lots of good folks, and I've actually only started robotics. We started our program in Denver City last year. Actually, this was my second year last year. We only went 2 years. The first year, that season, I relied on help from coaches. And one of the things you'll find out in FTC is that people are very willing to help and guide you. I rely heavily on my friends. I have a coach that has helped me, Lewis Fleming and Andrews helped me out, not only with advice, and we'd go down and see his shop and look around, but he even gave us some equipment that we could use, and I'm very grateful for that. And Sam Black up at Lubbock High was north of me. They're both about 100 miles away each direction, and I would go up there and talk to him, and everything that I've done is basically I've used their shoulders and done a lot of research on my own. Our teams in Denver City, we started out with 4 teams. That was our first year. I had a small classroom. We got stuff together and scrambled together, and the teams ended up being successful, and we got to compete in the state meet. And because of that, my team, the team that advanced, they did place in the top 10. So all my students were eligible for the TILF scholarships, and that was huge. My senior captain, programmer, and all that, she got the $15,000 scholarship to go to Texas Tech in our first year, and I can't emphasize that's just huge how that works to help her out. She's I believe she's going into astrophysics is what she's headed towards. So this young lady is developing out of that. This last year, of course, we were on the road to the state meet when we got the phone call that it had been canceled. So we turned that bus around and came home. I feel real bad for my seniors, that first year seniors that didn't qualify. I had some excellent students, and it breaks my heart for them, but they'll be fine. To my new programmer was a senior. He'd stay after school and work late, and my other captain, senior, his first year at it, he whipped those kids into shape. Okay, so I've got what I've got is a Word document that I want to go through, and I'll start through some of the things that will get to what hopefully that will get some information to you. Please, I've got the chat box open here on the side, and I'm not reading where everybody's from anymore since we started this. If you have specific questions and want to ask them as I go, let me know. Here's the first thing. I'm at Denver City High School. There's my email address. This document will be provided later in a link so that you can get to it. I don't mind you emailing me. That's the school phone number. You can get a hold of me there. This is where we go. All right, a little bit about FTC. One of the, I mentioned the TLF scholarships and those things. There are, and David, if I mess up on this, I'm going to summarize a little bit, but I believe we have 3 contests that are eligible for the state in robotics that make the state meet. One of them is FTC that I'm going to talk about. There's also the BEST, which is a fall competition. In fact, the state meet was in December before all the COVID, so they completed their run. The FTC goes all year long, and then there's FRC, that's the big robots. On the first website at firstinspires.org, it gives a little bit of a summary of what each one is. The middle one's the one I'm going to be talking about. However, these others exist. Now, at our school, one of the things that got us that, like I said, it's not about me, it's about everybody else. I couldn't do this without help. My administration, in fact, limited me on my fundraising and said, no, we tax the people enough around here. We don't want you going out asking for money. We'll give you what you need. And they have. They took care of me financially on all these trips. So if you're wanting help with fundraising, I didn't have to do that. My administration went in full speed here. The first Lego League, I saw some of you are 4th and 5th grade. We actually started this program. One of my parents of the students, the volunteer, came up. She will also happen to be the band booster president, so there were resources readily available. And she was the gifted and talented teacher in the elementary, and she started the Lego League. And of course, they didn't get to compete, and they hope to this year. But that's pre-K through 8th is the Lego League, and there's a little bit of summary there. We of course are going to be the First Tech Challenge. That's grades 7 through 12, and this is a picture from 2 years ago at the meet that is on their website. And then the FRC, the first robotics competition, that's the big robot. I talked to my administration about adding this to our curriculum this year, and they said, get after it. I told them I needed about $10,000, and they said, well, just do it. So we were going to have we'll see how this goes this year. Not real sure, and First is not real sure how things are going to go with COVID, if we're going to have to do this Zoom or meetings or competitions or anything like that. So we really don't know. I read a letter from First saying just be flexible. I am hoping I don't see, if we don't have kids in the classroom, it's going to be very hard to do the Zoom meetings. If that's what we're doing, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to try. And there's a little bit of a description on it. Okay. As I said before, your team, in building a team, you've got to have a second coach, whether they actually show up or not. They have to sign up and do they have to be part of the team. It takes 2 people. I think that's a safety consideration. But coaches, and by the way, that young lady who got that big scholarship, she came back and said, hey, I want a mentor. I want to travel with the team and help and with the programming and all that. And worked it out, got background checks done where this young lady could travel with us. And she was a big part of getting our team all the way through the competitions. Like I said, this thing is, let's see, who told me this? And I forgot who it was already. Somebody was passing this on to somebody else because they didn't have time, the computer science teacher. I'm sorry, what's your name?
That's me, Delta.
Delta, thank you, Delta. I can see this because the time required to do robotics is as much or even more than developing a computer science team to compete at the UIL contest. I've always compared it just, class time is not enough. We got to work outside as well. And that's getting into robotics. It's just you can spend as much time as you want to do it as you want or don't want. A few things about it. FTC is grades 7 through 12. You can use junior high members, but to go to the state meet, the majority of your members have to be high schoolers, or you can't go there. Here's a summary of some of the years of just the names of what they've done over the years. I was involved with Rover Ruckus and Skystone. This year's topic is Ultimate Goal. It's a sports related theme. Of course, the details won't be released till in September, and that comes up. And let me go a little bit about the competition. Some of you may know this. Give us some background here. There's basically, when you go to competition, there's 4 teams competing. You have an alliance partner that you work with, and you compete against 2 other teams that are another alliance. We have the red and blue teams. And this is competed on a 12 by 12 foot field. Now, this is last year's game setup. This year, we don't know what it'll look like. Last year, we were building towers on top of these foundations up here, and scoring points, calling blocks underneath, and doing different things. And this is a basic setup. I don't know if you've ever seen this before or not. But basically, robots perform tasks to earn points. The first part's called the 30-second autonomous portion. Boys, computer programmers, this is huge for us. We work as a team to develop the best way possible to make the most points in this 30 seconds. Basically, the way it works, if you're not familiar, they do a countdown. You set your robot up the way they tell you, and you press a button, and you put the controller down. All you do is start the autonomous, and whatever programming instructions you give the robot, it has 30 seconds to do this and score points. Of course, because I teach computer science, I really love this, and I was heavily involved. I had 4 programmers. Well, this year I cut back to 3 teams because we had tried the best competition, but we had 3 teams. I had 3 main programmers and 3 backup programmers, and we worked quite a bit of time after school. We tried to share stuff with each other as we learned it, but these guys were so different they couldn't hardly talk to each other. In a minute, if you have questions, I had some that wanted to program in blocks and some that wanted to program in the Java code, and both have their advantages, I guess. And I no longer have a preference. I just work either way. And Andy, you're right. YouTube, the videos, the gameplay, boy, you put in for FTC and look at what's going on. I've debated about putting some of our videos and pictures up and decided that YouTube has plenty for that as well. The next step, after 30 seconds, there's a 2-minute teleop that we call it, the driver control, where you can use two controllers, two drivers, that you program each of those gamepads separately to do different things, and they work together to make as many points as they can. The last 30 seconds of the 2-minute of this 2-minute period, it's called the end game, and there's certain things you can do there to score extra points if it's done during that time. This last year, it was moving the foundation. I was one of the big things you could do at the end. And of course, the skyscrapers, some of them would topple, some, and you just had to decide what was best. The year, the way it goes, and the way I worked my program, just kind of an outline here, from September through October. In September, we get the release of the new game. There are coaches' clinics and workshops, and we can scrimmage with each other. We have our own field and our own place. If anybody's anywhere close, would love to come visit if you needed to use our field, but I know we're in the middle of nowhere, so nobody's really close. I don't see anybody on here anyway, in West Texas. November through January, we get to the qualifying tournaments. We put on a tournament. We did we have 3 league qualifier tournaments in our part of the world in West Texas. The first one was at our place. We have a great facility. Like I said, my administrators, parents, everybody helped out, and I think we did okay. I didn't hear anybody really be ugly about it to me, so didn't hear much, but anyway, think it went okay. So we held the tournament and in our basement, and we enjoyed that. Then we had our second tournament. We had to travel about 150 miles to Knox City, and or I don't remember how far exactly, and we went there for the second one. Then the third one was in Lubbock, and then the qualifiers the following week. That's how our schedule works in the Panhandle Plains portion of this. In February, we had our regional championship. In March was supposed to be the UIL championship, state championship. It was the weekend before our spring break. So we had all our kids take their final exams early. We ended our 9 weeks there, and then we got to go back and sit in class that we already, after we were turned back. April was supposed to be the World Championship in Houston. That's a normal schedule. Okay, now, let's see. And talking to folks, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. The first place to start is registration. This link, firstinspires.org, it goes to the Start a Team checklist. And I believe I want to show that to you. I'm going to see how this works. Hopefully I can just click on it and I can open this and go back when I need to. All right, this is called Start a Team checklist. I hope we see this okay. It worked when I was Zooming earlier, but I'll have this link on my slide to help you out. Anyway, it's a PDF. It tells you to create a first account and to go through the parts, to order your parts and register online. There's some things to do about that. Okay. And my first year, when we applied for grants, of course, we had a little trouble getting stuff ready to order. We got our stuff a little bit late, so we had to scramble later in the year. But when you create your first team, they give you a temporary team number, and then you need to get to the grants. In Texas, we've got, and I'll show you in a little bit where to go. It's firstintexas.org, and they really help out with grant money to ease the burden on this for the school districts. There are more grants available, but First in Texas with the Texas Workforce Commission, they're the ones that helped us out in the first year. The second year, we have some issues with paperwork and all that, and I'm not too sure our grants are going to work out. But anyway, some of these grants, just for your information, it's better if you don't pay your registration fee up front. They'll pay it for you, or you can do it afterwards. I think it works either way. You set it up, you pay your registration. That looks online. I can show you that. I will in just a minute. You've got to complete your youth protection screening, and everybody, every mentor, every volunteer, your second coach that you're required to have, they all have to do this and sign off. Our local events in our part of the world, it's done through Texas Tech. Delilah Holder's just excellent at this, and that's who I used for a resource. I'm going to show you that page. I believe it's coming up here. Well, I may have clicked on the wrong one. Let me see up here if I can get this. Sorry about that.
You might have to stop sharing and then start sharing again with a different, with your web browser window to get it to show up. That might be.
Oh, okay. Was my web browser not showing then?
Yes. Yeah. I think you might have to do it to stop and then restart.
Thank you.
Window.
I will. Were you able to see that, what I showed a minute ago, or no?
No, we didn't. When you hit the link, it didn't go anywhere. So, but I think if you reshare to that different window, it should work.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Let me. Well. I've got it back here. Let me go back to that link. Sorry about that. We will do it again. I had the share screen available here. Okay. I meant to share this one, the start a team checklist. Apologize for that. There we go. And this is that link. And it pretty much tells you what you need to do to step through. I found the registration for the students was very difficult for some of my students. Some of my students, their parents did not have email accounts. And so I would help the parents create an email account. If the student's under 18, in order for them to register, you have to have permission from a separate email account where the parent approves their student to be in it. So it's a two-step process, and sometimes parents just need help doing that. And it goes through everything about choosing. Once you register, you'll get the opportunity to buy your communication set. New this year, up until last year, it required 2 phones to be on the, to make it work. You put one phone you attach to the driver's side and then the other phone on the robot. But new this year, the hub is the receiver, the phone, so you only need one phone to transmit. And my understanding is they're using a different network with more ports so that we won't have bleed over from other teams. We haven't tried it yet, so I don't know how that's going to work. But this gives a pretty good outline of what to do. We chose the Rev. And one of my friends said, hey, you need to get those controllers. You need to get the whole thing every time because these things go bad. You can try to reuse some of that electronics, and yes, we did, especially the hubs, and when we tied them together and we had enough and we used old motors and those things. But during the course of competition, a lot of this material wears out. And I'm going to buy a new set to have. We may be practicing with the old electronics and then put the new ones on, and we'll see. We use the Rev First Tech Challenge competition set, probably because it was cheaper by $70. I have not used the Tetrix. We have some of that material. That's just something you're going to have to decide what you want to do, and to go there. Some of okay. Thanks, Andy. The control hub's available from Rev Robotics. Yeah, that's the communications part. Some of the tools, I spent time at Harbor Freight. That's where I got my tools that I thought I needed. We got us a toolbox, and one of the big things we used is I got one of their small cutoff saws. It's just supposed to work up to a 1-inch diameter piece of metal, and it works fine. Now, I've kept it in my classroom. We use, we walk down to the shop and use the big one if we needed to, but we were ventilated enough and kept it clean enough that we were allowed to keep that in our classroom. So we use that is a big thing. We also use our cordless drills if we need to make holes or something like that. But mostly that cutoff tool's a big thing to cut those pieces of metal. Here's some things. They'll give you some other things you can use: the sanders, grinders, and I would highly recommend buying extra the Allen wrenches for the size that you need. We just kept using them over and over. The little nut driver, that one, boy, you can't have enough of those on the Rev. Now, I haven't used the Tetrix, so I don't know what that would require. But anyway, this is a great place to look at to get some of that. We'll stop the share. Let me go back to my document. The kit of parts, there's another link we can go to and look at that has tells you all the pieces that you're going to need. I would set up at least a partial practice field. We were in a small classroom, and I got my 12 by 12 field in there, and it was, we had to have it before contest. We had to have something. You need the tiles. You can only get them from a couple of places. If you don't know, this is what it looks like for the dashboard when you go into First Inspires and you log in and you create it. You're going to need 2 emails. I found out there's an administrator, and then I needed one as a coach. I use my school email for the administration of all my teams, and then as a coach, I use my personal email. I had to do both. Maybe there's a way around that, but that's what I did. So I have 2 different logins depending on what I'm doing. This is what the dashboard looks like from First Inspires. There's a list of my teams. Wow, the free Shavakadu was, I mean, I let them choose their own names. There are coaches who won't do that anymore. They brand their names like Lubbock Westerners or to keeping with their school, but I gave my students freedom to choose their own. This is what my cart looked like this week. I've got to pay for some things. But you've got to open your account. You got to pass all those, do the child protection laws, create your new teams. You got to have the second coach. Firsttexas.org is where you can apply for a grant. You don't need the team roster until your first event, but getting those kids signed up takes time. All right. And these are things we already did. I did try putting out consent forms for parents, trying to give them step-by-steps to help them. It's still, that just took more time than I thought. And then once they apply, you've got to let them in as a coach. All right. The programming, is what I love and what I do. We do not use Android Studio. We use the web browser off of Blocks and OnBot Java. Those are the 2 that we used that you can actually program on the phone and don't even need a computer, but it sure is a lot easier on the computer. And if we needed to make some quick updates or something, my programmers would do that. But I use the web browser. Some other things besides the kit you can use, you can buy stuff, limited 1 degree of freedom, like drawer slides or something. And I was fortunate enough that our junior high got a really nice 3D printer, but didn't know how to use it and asked me if I wanted to try it. And we have it in our classroom, and my students made a lot of 3D parts. That's another thing. I don't know what the field set will look like this year. I get it from Andy Mark. You can get either full, half, or quarter field. That's something to practice on. The soft tiles flooring, you need to get the right stuff. And softtiles.com, if you want the whole field, it's 36 of them. But they're 2 by 2 foot rubber floor tiles. The perimeter walls, you can make your own. There's instructions, or you can pay $600 from shipping from Andy Mark for the real set. Now, let me talk a little bit. I'm going to stop sharing here and go back. Hopefully I hadn't. The part that I found challenging was my team giving each student an assignment or helping them develop what they could do. This robotics is so varied, and I worked very hard getting to know my students and trying to get them to show where they were good at. Some of my students, I had some students who chose, however, just to keep things cleaned up and the tools put away. And in a way, that's their job. I had a student who made drawings to reach out. Basically, they drew our mascot and drew pictures so they could, when we were reaching out to other teams or when we did our meet, that we could put our logo on it. They hand drew it. That's my artist. That's all she did was draw pictures for us. We had a social media person. My website isn't. We have a Facebook page that we put up. I have the person that was making videos all year long. That's really all they did. They'd go around and take videos and post them. They ran a Twitter feed. That's our social media person. The people who, of course, wanted to do programming, I got them to get heavy into programming. Now the whole class has to do a little bit of everything, but it's finding what each person can do and what they want to do. I have students who want to be captain, but have no clue what that is. They just want to be captain. They just want to be in charge, but they're not there. The captains, God, they're important to me. I try to train the captains to say, you're big. You got to keep people on task. Got to keep people working. There's so many things to do. There's no way in the classroom that I can be everything to everybody. I have to train people to train others. My programmers have to help each other. And now that we're in our third year, I'll have people who know what to do, and I can rely on them to build that up. Now in our school, because of my computer science classes, I teach computer science using I like to use the Eclipse IDE, and I hadn't found a way to use that on Chromebooks. So I got my own Windows laptops that we use for computer science, so I could run my Eclipse IDE and program that way. Well, those things work great for robotics as well, and we tie in. Now, a Chromebook actually works great with the web browser to do your Java programming. You can use when you tie into the phones and how that works, getting that set up. Chromebooks work fine. All you need is a web browser. So if you have that, you can program with the phones, but it's pretty hard. You really need a computer, at least a Chromebook, to help you out. And just a caution, if you have more than one team doing this, we ended up getting our programs mixed up, and got to be very careful with naming the programs. Like if they're named the same thing on two different programs, they'll step on each other, and you won't think they will, but they do. I ended up using team names, and what we were doing is our files so we wouldn't step on each other when we were out there trying to program. One of the little things I found out using that web browser. But assigning people to different things. I have what I call a research scientist. He goes out and at first, before we go to competition, he working on game strategy, finding the most points, but he goes and finds out what other teams can do. And we try to, it's not a spy sort of thing. It's set up to find out other people's strengths to see if we could adapt to them and be a good alliance partner. If we know what the other team can do, we run several different programs on our autonomous. So if the other team can do these 5 things and we don't have to, then we set a different program and we try to match up with them. So that's communication with other teams and trying to do your, be the best alliance partner you can. It's, some teams are better at that than others. We felt really good about who we met up with in the finals, and the team from Lubbock High, and they were just really good and helped us out a lot. Our robot, we finally figured out for consistency is more important than speed, and we worked hard. We'd lose points because we'd forget to plug a wire in, or a bolt would get loose, or something would happen and it'd kill the whole round. So that's somebody else that I had on the team that was in charge of that, the safety person who makes sure that people have the right clothes on, that we have our eyeglasses, that sort of thing. But also this person also would, when the robot was sitting down, would just tighten screws on it, keep it from falling apart. But finding something for people to do, and my kids that I had, for whatever reason in Denver City, were not really participants in anything else. This is all they did, and they hadn't done anything before this. So I really wasn't pulling from other programs. These kids, it was a good fit for them. It does present quite a few challenges. I had team members get suspended for becoming eligible because they couldn't keep their grades in the other classes. So when we'd go to a meet, there were times when I didn't have everybody. I could be missing as many as 10 kids. Work kept a lot of my kids from going to a meet. They had to work. So backing up your team members is a really good idea if you're going to do more than one team. Really 5 to 7 kids is perfect for a team. The problem is if all 5 or 7 can go every time, that's great, but it doesn't usually happen that way. So that hurt us a couple of times. We're missing some folks, and I think, and this may sound odd, but my programmers who are just, they're brilliant guys. They were all ineligible. I lost all my programmers to go to a meet because they didn't have their eligibility for that 9 weeks. So we go in 9-week sections, and not all of them. I had one that did well, but my others, they were ineligible. So those kind of challenges happen, and we just do what we can. I'm learning to back up who I have, that's for sure. Okay, there it is. Back to this. The engineering notebook. I think I have a handle on it for this year. It's taken me 2 years to learn that I can't do this on my own. I've got 2 of the parents who also worked as judges at the meet. They volunteered and did judging for us and could learn what a notebook needs to be. And you can look at them up. You can look them up online. You can look at good ones. But this notebook, the kids I have just do not want to do it. Motivation, the unfortunate part is their teacher doesn't enjoy doing it. So that may radiate to the students. I love programming and I love building robots, but I don't really like keeping an engineering notebook. And so I'm trying to find some people that do. Right now I have 2 parents who know what to do, and I'm going to rely on them to help me out. The engineering notebook's required, and you got to start early. Everything needs to go in that notebook. It's we have our laptops that we use. We're trying to make it mostly electronic. I have a young man who took care of this. Now we just used Word as our program. I don't know of. I'm going to look and see what we can do. We made what we would do is keep it electronically, but then we print out what we needed, and we kept it in a physical notebook to hand in at the time, because we didn't trust our electronic to stay good. So we had papers that we drew on. We have the electronic as a backup, and that's what we did, but we have not been successful yet. I say yet, I'm hoping that this year will be there. Mark Garrett asked that. I don't know, does anybody use a notebook documenting program, anything? If anybody has some things to offer. All I have is what we can see online, and these guidelines, I'm going to go there. I put it up there a minute ago. Let's see here. And you may be aware of this. This is last year's. They haven't updated it yet for this year, but the Skystone notebook, it gives lots of information. And there are examples. Okay, yes, and I said Word, but we actually did use Google Docs because I use Google Classroom. I'm hoping, let me read this, draft by hand and on Autodesk Inventor or SolidWorks, okay. And I use, in fact, before we went COVID and all that online, in my classroom, I use Google Classroom, and I break it up into pieces, and I was having students submit there, and so I could see what they were submitting and contributing. I made them document with their name and date, and so I could see what was added to the notebook as it went. So thanks, I'd forgotten how I did that towards the end. So when we went COVID, of course, we were done with since we knew that we couldn't compete anymore. I had all my students, I use Coder Z as programming. I had all my students run that with online, and that's what I made all of them do so they get used to programming. And by the way, that's a neat little gaming thing to learn some robot tricks. And thank you for saying that CAD. I'd forgot, I have that 3D printer. I had my CAD team submit projects, and wow, I can't think, we use, wow, I didn't write it down. Our CAD program, we finally got one that we liked. And I apologize. ThinkCAD, I think is what it is. I helped them draw with it. And there's a lot of free 3D things online. Okay, let me stop that. But that one's available. What have we got for questions, guys? I've just been rambling here. What can I help you with? Mark's got some good stuff. Andy.
Yeah, if you have questions, feel free to enter those, or we have a smaller group in this session, so you can certainly unmute and jump in if you'd like to to ask a question that way. Just a couple of things to mention. Of course, the big unknown is what's going to happen this year, and we, as it changes on a daily basis. I am in regular communication with both the robotics organizations we work with FIRST and with BEST, and both are very much committed to having a season this coming year, and it's just going to depend on what form that takes as to what our schools are able to do. So so they are working through different scenarios, and if we're able to do in person, or if we're able to not to do as much of that. So so we're kind of in wait and see mode on that.
I noticed the question about Tetrix and Rev. I just didn't. Tetrix has all the holes where the screws go through. Rev uses a slide that the heads of the screws go into. A little different, more solid bracing. I like the Rev. I don't know. Actobotics from Servo City. Really? Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, we actually have used, we started with Tetrix, which was great, but their control systems were horrible the first couple of years. Once they came out with the Rev Robotics expansion hubs, those changed the whole game. But we found that the best kits, the ones that have so many, it's so versatile, is the Actobotics kit. I know the Rev, we did try it. We have one team on Rev, and they have a lot of trouble sometimes. You have to buy a lot of, more parts. They work off of extruded aluminum, and so it's kind of, you have to do a lot of modifications to it. They do have a lot of plastic pieces that tend to kind of break, or they'll be kind of flimsy. They have, I know in the past couple of years, they've been actually outputting a lot of more metal parts.
Yes.
Which is a little bit more, mixed, gives it a little bit better structure. But I think as a starter kit, you can either go with, I think the best one is Actobotics. They're a little bit beefier. They're more, sturdy, and they have a lot more parts available. Of course, they're a little bit more expensive. But Pitts goes, the Tetrix is actually pretty good. It's a great starter kit. My kids had a lot of success with those two. But I think Rev, it's good. It's actually very inexpensive, but we find kind of some issues with their plastic gears and things like that. I'm not sure if y'all had any other experience like that.
The plastic gears, when we were using our arms, we had to secure them well for that to work, and we'd gear stuff down, and it worked for us. We actually 2 years ago, we took a threaded rod from and used in our welding department so we could lift our robot off the ground. We hooked a motor to a threaded rod that we welded and did in the shop and used that. So yeah, I don't know if there was anything else that would have lifted it. Okay.
We use something similar, but through Actobotics, they have it's a linear actuator kit, which is just essentially the same thing. You use
Excuse me a minute. I'm going to get rid of this siren.
Okay. I think for the rest of y'all, I think the point is as long as you started with one starter kit just to get the kits going, any of them are actually pretty decent. But you'll find that as you get more experience, you'd have to actually take from all, 3 different kits, or even make your parts yourselves. I know a lot of the very successful teams down here in the Rio Grande Valley region. They actually fabricate a lot of their parts. They have, massive metal shops and all that they can work with, and they machine it all out. Unfortunately, we don't have that. I have one single classroom here, but you'll find that any starter kit will probably do the job. I think the best ones, I would say, from my opinion, are the Tetrix and the Actobotics.
Okay. I'll give that a shot. Thank you.
Had a question from Jeff also as from an academic coordinator's perspective. If we already have FRC, FTC teams at our school, do we need to do anything to associate with UIL? The short answer is no. If you're at a UIL member school and you're, of course, participating in other UIL activities, your robotics teams are already included as a UIL program, provided they meet the standard eligibility requirements. So we communicate, I communicate with First in Texas each year to get a list of participating teams in Texas, and then we go through that list just to make sure all of those, which teams are UIL eligible, because First, like other robotics organizations, does allow for other types of teams, or teams that are club based, or for other groups or organizations that are not UIL members. But if you're at a UIL member school and you have teams there that are already established, they're already in the mix. There are no separate UIL district or regional contests for robotics. You just go through the regular First seasons, and then we base the invitations to state on that. So there's nothing extra you need to do until we get to that championship point. We're coming up on an hour. Are there any other questions from anyone before we sign off here? All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. And
I think Mark's typing something.
Okay.
I thought I saw you
Just
typing
came
there,
to a
Mark.
point. I've been to the state championship a couple. So, no, what I was typing, David just answered. But that brings to a point about the state championship. If the advancement from regionals to worlds now is going to have a state level. That's what we've heard from our program provider. That's still different from the UIL state championship, right? Because UIL state champion in Houston, when I look at what teams compete at the Houston regionals, maybe about only a third of those are UIL teams.
Yes. Yeah, we had kind of a similar situation with FRC that would have gone into effect this last year if we'd been able to complete the season, where they went to the district model that culminated in a state championship. But we'll work with First to try and have those two things work in tandem. I don't know if we will end up having a separate UIL only event, or if there will be a way to have it concurrent with an FTC state championship event. I don't know yet exactly what the scheduling for that's going to look like. So it'll be one of those two options. We'll either have a standalone UIL FTC state championship like we were going to have this past spring, or we'll have something set up concurrently. So we have, and then we'll have that separate scoring track where only UIL teams are considered for UIL awards.
Or it could be back back-days.
Yes,
Same
yeah,
town, but just back days.
Right, yeah, that would be another possibility, and we're kind of talking through some of those scenarios now as we're looking at what the hopefully what the the spring season is going to look like, and so we'll as we finalize that, we'll definitely get that information out to teams probably through First in Texas, but it is similar to what we have with FRC and also with Best, where we have a combined event. The UIL state championship for our Best division takes place at the same time as their Texas Best regional championship. So, and that's worked really well.
Okay. Okay.
I think we're about at the end of our hour, but certainly if you have other robotics questions, generally about the UIL program, feel free to send me those. You can just email robotics@uiltexas.org, and I'm always glad to help you out. Thank you, Brad, for presenting today. We'll get that handout posted on our Capitol Conference page, and you can check that out and follow up with him as well, as he indicated earlier. So thank you all again for coming today, and keep an eye on the conference website and our program for any additions or changes to the schedule. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.